Hello, everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimberley, live for you in Abuja. NNPC gets our attention. 210 trillion naira is missing, unaccounted for. I'll be asking questions. Where is 210 trillion naira? Don't forget that the entire federal budget in a year is about 20 trillion. So where is 210 trillion naira? It's a Senate that said they've discovered that unaccounted funds. What we'll be finding out tonight for you and giving you an insight into where that money walked through, the breakdown after the PIA, what happened. Well, let's begin with a very touching story, which happened in Abuja. What began as days of fear, anguish, and uncertainty for families in parts of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, has ended in scenes of relief and celebration. Tonight, we can tell you that 25 victims kidnapped by armed bandits in communities around Buhari Area Council in Abuja have now been rescued in a coordinated intelligence-driven security operation. A joint mission involving the Nigerian Army, the Department of State Services, and the Nigerian Police followed days of intense intelligence gathering, surveillance, and community collaboration, according to security agencies and what they told Channels Television, that eventually led operatives to the kidnappers' hideout deep inside the Gidangodo forest. Tonight, the communities of Gidangodo and Biasin are witnessing emotional reunions as families welcome back their loved ones after a terrifying ordeal in captivity. Residents will now see some family members are jubilating, thanking God, security agencies for the rescued, and how they've now reunited with relatives after receiving medical attention at a military facility.
Thank you. God bless you. You will not see shame. You people will not see shame. Nobody will cut your life short. For this you have done. Before you cry to God, God will answer you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I am very grateful. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. How do I thank you? How do I thank you? What can I do? Thank you. God bless you. You will not see shame. You people will not see shame. Nobody will cut your life short. Before you cry to God, God will answer.
Visibly happy and emotional members of the family of kidnapped victims there. But now some of the victims are recounting the horror of their abduction, while family members speak of the moment they received the call that their loved ones had finally been freed. And you will hear very graphic description of some of these victims, of how they were taken, where they were taken, many hours of trek from one state to the other. Horrific, I tell you. Take a listen to some of the victims.
At my residence in Kubwa on Thursday night by 10:56 p.m. I was kidnapped with my 3 other children. The experience was terrible because I've never experienced such. The next thing they said I should lie down, and that's why they picked my daughters and they later picked me, and we started entering the bush. They took us through the bush path. All through that night we were walking till when we get to their camp on a hill path. Then the next day again, all through the day they kept us in a place, blindfold us. Then yesterday night, we walked all through yesterday night from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. this morning.
It was a horrible experience. It was so bad. A lot of things happened along the line. We were so much beaten, put to hunger. You know, it was so excruciating. It was a bad experience, actually. It was when we trekked all the way from Abuja to Kaduna, and then they were still telling us we will still be taking us to Katsina. That was when all hope was lost.
The kidnappers were communicating, telling you where you are going.
Yes, Yes, actually, we asked them this, they tell us. So they told us that by this time we would have started making our journey to Katsina State. So we are going to collect each person, each of the victims, 5 million naira each. That it's non-negotiable.
It was a terrible experience that I don't even wish it for my enemy. Very terrible experience. The first location they took us to was under a mountain. The mountain was very big, like cast under. So we stayed there. It's like you can't sit like this. You can't sit upright. You have to bend like this because of the mountain. If you sit upright, the mountain will affect your head. So you have to bend. You have to bend like this. That was how they kept us there.
Walking all through the night.
Yes, we kept on walking all through the night. When it's daytime, they find somewhere for us to stay. I was kidnapped at Garaka under Niger State. So we were rescued today by the Nigerian Army, GSS, and police. You know, when we heard gunshots, we were very scared. But immediately they appeared, the Nigerian Army, police, GSS, immediately they appeared, we were very happy. We were very, very happy. It was like a prayer answered. Like we were very happy. We give thanks to God and we appreciate them for their efforts. Truly, they are really, really working.
Coordinated intelligence effort from the DSS and a joint rescue operation by Army and the police, but the operation, which we now understand was largely an intelligence-based one, leading to the rescue. Well, earlier, the DSS had arrested a bandit informant identified as Habila Ibrahim. Ibrahim is currently in DSS custody, awaiting arraignment in court. Congratulations, I guess, is in order to some of the families of these victims and the victims who are now free after some horrific past days in captivity. All right, tonight, we confront a staggering allegation at the heart of Nigeria's oil and gas industry. One that could shake public confidence and raise serious questions about accountability in government. The Senate Public Accounts Committee has summoned the former leadership of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, including its immediate past Group Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Mele Kyari, over what lawmakers claim is 210 trillion naira. Yes, you heard me. 210, not million, not billion, trillion naira in unaccounted expenditures between 2017 and 2023. Among the figures under scrutiny are 103 trillion naira linked to joint venture cash calls and 107 trillion listed as subsidy receivables. Numbers so massive they dwarf Nigeria's annual federal budget. The Senate committee has warned that failure to appear before it could lead to warrants of arrest for the former executives, while also calling for a forensic audit by the Auditor General to trace every naira. Adding to the controversy, the lawmakers are questioning how the company spent 5 billion naira simply to change its name from NNPC to NNPC Limited. Where is this money? Who is responsible? And will justice finally be served? In addition, the Senate is calling for a forensic review of the company's audited financial statement by the Auditor General of the Federation, in line with constitutional provisions governing public finance oversight. The development comes amid renewed scrutiny of transparency and accountability in Nigeria's oil and gas industry, a sector that remains the backbone of government revenue. Tonight, we examine the facts behind the numbers and the political and economic implication of Senate's probe and what it could mean for public confidence in the management of the nation's most critical resource. Tonight, I'm being joined by the Senate Committee Chair on Public Account, Senator Aliyu Wadada Ahmed, who is live for us here in our Abuja studio. Thanks so much, Senator, for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much, Sharon.
Thank you so much indeed.
Thanks for having me.
First and foremost, let me give our viewers an understanding to make them understand how enormous the allegations that you have placed at the desk of the NNPCL and the money they are asking them to produce. This is more than several years of federal budget. Take a look at this, for example, everyone. if you look at it, the report shows the missing unaccounted funds from about 2017 to 2020, right? 2020, 22, 23. Yeah. Now, if you look at it, for example, what is in context here is the 2020 210 trillion accounting controversy. The 210 trillion naira is the context. But if you look at it, federal budget versus the alleged unaccounted sum. Federal budget in 2018 is 9 trillion. Federal budget in 2019 is 8.9 trillion. Nigeria federal budget in 2020 is 10.6 trillion. The claimed discrepancy is 210 trillion. The figure equals multiple years of national budget. We're talking of almost 10 years or more of our national budget that is missing, that we don't know where it is. Let me begin the conversation by asking you specifically, Senator. This money that you're talking about, is it stolen? Is it missing? Is it unaccounted for in the sense that the figures were not right? Or what do you suspect in your auditing of the NNPCL?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I will start by reminding us that in accounting principle, for any figure to be accepted as liability figure or asset figure or both, it must pass through P&L, profit and loss account. The figures we are talking about, as far as the audited financial statement of NNPC from 2017 to 2023, did not pass through the P&L. That's one.
That is a big failure. So
the failures.
And this was this before PIA was passed?
Yes.
It was before PIA. So it's a direct. There is a protocol on how these monies are going to be
accounted for.
Yes. Through the bureaucracy.
Yes. Now.
And it gets the sign off of the headship of the NNPC and maybe the minister of the petroleum resources, which at the time, mostly when we're talking about, is President Muhammadu Buhari, because he was acting as the minister of petroleum.
Now, the mind-boggling figures, 210 trillion. To every normal mind, it cannot be comprehended when you say 210 trillion is missing. This is why we are saying 210 trillion, and I break it down. According to, and none of the issues raised by this committee was fabricated or gotten from anywhere other than from the audited financial statement of NNPC 2017 to 2022. And according to the literature contained in the audited financial statement of NNPC 2017 to 2023, it said that the accrued expenses of NNPC within the period under review was 103 trillion. Accrued expenses stand for the liabilities, 103 trillion. And this 103 trillion was captured under 3 items. 1, retention fee. 2, legal fee. 3, audit fee. It is bad enough and indicting enough on the side of NNPC to mention these 3 items without any figure linked to any of the items. First and foremost, if you talk about retention fee, retention we know is 5% of total contract sum of whatever. No contract was mentioned in the audited financial statement. No figure was linked to the retention fee. Neither was any figure linked to the legal fee. No, any figure was linked to the audit fee. That is bad enough. Haven't had that as bad as it was and it still is. When we issued the questions we issued to NNPC, now in responding to the questions based on their answers, NNPC completely went outside the confines of its audited financial statement and now said to us, sent to the committee as an answer or response, that the 103 figure covers cash calls, payment done to joint venture partners under cash calls. Meanwhile, Buhari's administration abolished cash call in 2016, which took effect in 2017. How then do you or any normal mind, responsible and responsive, will accept this as liability figure?
So, Senator, this is, and I will go further in breaking down how you came about this 210 trillion, including the cash calls, the venture capital investment, the issue of the PR paid to change their name and all of that. But, Senator Wadada, the Senate says 210 trillion must be accounted for. But Nigeria's entire federal budget in 2023 was about 21 trillion. So the figure your committee is talking about is 10 times the national budget. How could a single government agency or entity handle financial discrepancy of that magnitude without triggering earlier alarms from any aspect of our checks and balances in government? How?
Well, if no alarm was raised between then and the beginning of the 10th Senate. Now the 10th Senate has raised...
Auditor General Office did not see it. The Accountant General Office did not see it. The Presidency did not see it. And it went on from 2017 to 2023.
Now the Senate Public Accounts Committee has seen it because it is contained in their audited financial statement. This issue is as simple as it is. The Senate Committee did not create these figures. No, the Senate itself or the National Assembly.
What is going to run in the mind of an average person is that how can an agency of government have that kind of money? That is not actually possible.
It is very possible because it is contained in their audited financial statement.
So they were the ones, that is what they presented to you.
They presented to us. They presented this figure.
Before Mr. Ojulari came, you were having a back and forth with Mr. Kyari.
Yes.
He was not appear, you threatened him, you reported him, back and forth, and eventually he appeared before he was removed from office.
Yes.
Was there any explanation to the Senate?
No, he did not.
At all.
Ojulari was the first to appear. So
Kyari never appeared to defend...
To defend this. Because we started the investigation after Kyari. While Kyari was in office, we were making our quiet and strategic investigations. We first started with the external auditors. Because the books were prepared by their external auditors. And having dealt with the auditors, we now went deeper to say, come on, this 103 trillion that you expect us to accept as your liability figure for 2017 to 2023. The explanation is not clear.
But, there is a major issue here, and which a lot of Nigerians will start to blame some of you whose oversight is on this kind of subject. And the other part is the Minister of Petroleum, the Minister of Finance. How are we not able to account for this sum of money over this space of years, and somebody is not appearing to come and answer questions in relation to this? Don't you think also that's a failure of oversight, which the Senate, as an entity, can also be blamed for?
Well, Senate could be blamed for if one looks at it from the perspective of discharge of responsibility. But on the other hand, you could exonerate the Senate because the Senate will only use documents or data available to it.
But there are Senate committee, there are House committee on petroleum resources.
Yeah.
What were they looking at over this space of years? For example, Senator, Issues of joint venture and cash cost system ended in about 2016.
Yes.
But you're looking at books from 2017.
Yes.
That's a major flag.
No, it's not a major flag. It's the audited financial statement. The NNPC accounting system is entirely different. They accumulate all their records. Their external auditors put together this for 5 years, 2017 to 2023. That is the period under review. Anything outside this period, I am not here to talk about.
Why are you not able to put the blame on the person who was the minister supervising this ministry?
Well, the minister is gone.
He's dead.
He's dead. So who do we ask? And that's why we did not even start with Mele Kyari and members of his team, because government is a continuum. So we started with Ojulari, and having gotten all we got from Ojulari, the committee was not satisfied with what the present management of NNPC provided to us. It is not acceptable, not convincing, not tenable anywhere. And that's why, under ideal accounting principle, it would have been asset minus liabilities. So we would have ideally been talking about 4 trillion. But you cannot, the figures were not netted up, first and foremost. That's why I started with a profit and loss account. They were not netted off. How do you now, Shehu, let me ask you. You have a business manager who comes to account for the responsibilities given to him. And he tells you that what his expenditure profile for the period under review that you asked him to account for is 100 naira. And that 100 naira is covered by 3 items: electricity bill, entertainment, and gas. Meanwhile, after he told you 100, and the 100 came under or comes under these 3 items, no figure was given for entertainment. No figure was given for gas. No, any figure was given for the 3rd item. Would you accept that from him as your expenditure, liabilities for that period?
Senator, let me ask you a quick one. Out of this 210 trillion naira, the other part, which is the JV, which you are querying and saying, look, that could have ended in 2016, but we now see it in your books from 2017. But the other part is it was listed in the books as subsidy-related receivables, 107 trillion naira. That suggests that that money is being owed to the NNPCL, not necessarily missing. Senator Wadada, why is this figure being publicly framed as unaccounted for, if it may represent debts owed to NNPC rather than funds missing from it?
Fantastic. Owed by who?
Are there no records to...
No records. The 107...
No record of those who took the coup?
At all. All NNPC said in its audited financial statement is that the money is owed by some defunct banks. No bank, no name of bank was mentioned. No figure was mentioned attached to any of the banks.
Senator, the allegation that you are making, they are in very humongous proportion, which could lead anyone to jail.
Yes, of course. That's why we are taking it public. And that's why I've taken the pain immediately after my break of fast to be here, for Nigerians to understand where we're coming from. Sharon, before we go any further, allow me to break this thing down to the understanding of the average common man. Because, like I said earlier, it is ridiculous and not easily to be comprehended, even by those that went to school. That 210 trillion is unaccounted.
To make it clear to Nigerians tonight, the allegations are against Mr. Mele Kyari and his colleagues who are the headship. Yes. And you mentioned their names in that press conference, right?
Yes. Mele Kyari who was the then Group Managing Director, Umar Ajia as the then Chief Financial Officer, and Balawunti as the GGM Nappings.
Have you reached out to them through a call, through a letter, through an official correspondence?
The committee was all along dealing with the present management, but haven't gotten to where we have gotten. The committee now deems it fit, right and responsible to get these people through the present management. We are inviting them to appear before the committee in public hearing to clear the air in this controversial, ambiguous, and unacceptable conduct.
You've, in what you are asking, have you fixed a date for them to appear?
We shall, immediately after the Eid, we will be writing them through the GMD of the NNPC.
So there was an explanation made by the Ojulari leadership, but you are not satisfied.
We are not satisfied. That's the explanation I told you.
Brought on board
after it being contained, that's why I said, give me a while. What is contained in the Bible or the Quran of NNPC, the audited financial statement, is the ultimate book or document that shows your financial dealings, both on the side of assets and liabilities. What is contained there? NNPC on their liabilities, that is the accrued expenses. NNPC said the figure for their accrued expenses within that period was and is still, as far as we are concerned, 103 trillion. Then tell us, how did you get to 103 trillion? It was only mentioned that the 103 trillion was covered by retention fee, legal fee, and audit fee. And none of these figures had, items, none of the items had any figure linked to it. So that is indicting enough. Haven't asked them questions. Now the response of the present team to us on 103 is that the 103 was utilized to pay joint venture partners under cash calls. And cash calls, as we all know, was abolished by Buhari's administration in 2016. So how then do we take it that this 103 as liability figure is accepted or should be accepted by the committee and in turn the general public, Nigerians that we represent? Of course, no. So that makes it imperative for NNPC, for the committee to tell NNPC, to the knowledge of to Nigerians on whose mandate we are there, that this liability figure is not acceptable because it is not substantiated. That's one. On the 107, which is the asset now, receivables, the entire money, they said, was being owed by some defunct banks. And no name of bank was mentioned. No figure was given for, okay, the defunct banks, Bank A, as one of the banks, the defunct banks that is owing or is holding on to part of this money, is holding on to figure A or figure B. None was mentioned. How then, Sheum, would we accept this also as the figure for assets? And that's why we are saying NNPC should and must account for 210 trillion. Liability asset figure is unsubstantiated, so not acceptable. The asset figure, 107, not acceptable because it is not substantiated. That's why we are calling the immediate past management.
But the disease and the malay on the NNPC, on the oil and gas sector, has been years of opaqueness.
Yeah.
The books in the oil and gas sector has rarely been an open and accountable one. And there's always been a question as to that. And Nigerians never get question. And that's why it was important for us to critically analyze this one. If it needs that people go to jail, we must see to the end of it. But Senator, we'll take a break.
That implies that for the period, for years back, there has been under-declaration to the Federation account as far as proceeds of petroleum.
Does the book of the NNPC show a shift from when it was NNPC and NNPCL? Did it show a shift?
To a very reasonable extent. And permit me to say, beyond what we are talking about, permit me to say this is why I commend personally, and the Senate by extension, commends Mr. President for this executive order. For whatever NNPC generates that is due to the Federation, let it go to the Federation account immediately.
Why are you commending the President when people are asking? He's the one sitting as the Minister of Petroleum Resources,
yes.
And this discrepancy is under his
ministry.
No,
this discrepancy did not happen during Ashwaji Bola.
But government is a continuum. Is in your party, the APC? Is all this unaccounted money is under the watch of your party, the APC?
Then that you should know that now there is a paradigm shift. It is under, he is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and sitting as Minister of Petroleum, and his party has majority in the Senate, yet the Senate is doing this. So that calls for commendation.
Give us a moment, Senator. After the break, everyone, the Senate demands answers. Nigerians demand clarity. Next, we examine the figures behind the 210 trillion naira and the controversy. Don't forget, we've not even delved into the 5 billion naira in adding L to NNPC. That's going to be after this break, everyone. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. The Senate's probe into NNPC's finances is far from over, with former executives summoned and millions of naira under scrutiny. Actually, trillion of naira. 210 trillion. Not million, not billion. That is how much the Senate said they are looking for. My guest tonight has been the Senator who is in the chair of the Public Accounts Committee, Senator Aliyu Wadada Ahmed. Has been speaking with us tonight on the program on the issues of accountability in Nigeria's oil and gas sector, especially the finances of the NNPCL. Senator, in what you are looking at, what we are able to understand, and perhaps that shouldn't be a problem, is issue 5 billion naira, part of the monies that you're talking about, which is the rebranding, titled as for the rebranding or changing the name of NNPCL from NNPC to NNPCL. Literally, just adding L to the name and painting the logo to a different color. Was NNPC able to explain how they spent 5 billion naira?
No satisfactory explanation whatsoever.
What did they say?
In fact, the way and manner we got to the 5.8 billion is criminal. Criminal in the sense that it was a double charge. Double charge in the sense that NNPC charged 2.9 billion naira from petroleum products proceeds to execute this. And at the same time, under the same period, NAPIMS equally charged 2.9 billion for the same purpose. Putting the figures together made it 5.8 billion to just change, like you said, to add L to NNPC. How then do we accept this?
So Mr. Ojulari and his new team are unable to explain because they were not the ones.
They were not there. Because ideally, we wouldn't have had any business calling the last management. But for us to take it to a logical conclusion, to know how we got here, so that will give us the impetus, so to say, or the insight as to what measures do we need to take as lawmakers to forestall further occurrence of such, so that transparency and accountability in the management of public funds will be better defined and in the system, deepened and grown in the system. There could no explanation, satisfactory explanation at all.
Has the office of the president been involved and engaged in this matter?
Not yet. We want to conclude because the president, office of the president, is the
minister.
It's under the minister. It's under executive. This is legislative process we are doing, and of course.
I'll imagine, Senator, if you are doing due diligence of your job, which is part of the oversight, the minister that is in charge, and I'm imagining if the president was not the minister, if it was any other name on the cabinet, you would have invited such a person.
Not yet. When we first started, we did not invite Mele and Co. It is a gradual thing.
So
in fact, when we first
your
started,
job is inconclusive.
Yeah, of course.
So why are you making allegations based on inconclusive report?
Allegations because at any point we are convinced that we can put allegations.
But it doesn't look like you have finished your homework just yet.
In some of the areas we finished. In some of the areas, on 210 it is clear.
It doesn't look conclusive, Senator.
Why makes it not conclusive?
Because you have not the man in charge, who is the minister, and you are afraid of talking to the minister, who is the president.
We are not afraid of talking to the minister.
Because if the last leadership is not around to answer questions, there is one man who spearheaded that leadership, who is on seat. Why are you not able to ask him?
When we get there, if the need arises to invite the president or question the president...
Why then do you go to town when you have not even asked the president? Maybe the president knows about all of this stuff that you're looking for.
The president does not know nothing.
Have you asked him?
Well, even if we do not ask him, we know he does not know nothing.
You can't...
Did you know this before it came to public domain?
No, but you can't imagine that the president does not know when you have not asked him.
Yeah, we have not asked him because we
are you afraid of the president to ask him?
No, we're not. The president.
Are you being partial and biased in your reporting?
Never at all.
Is this a witch hunt, a political witch hunt, Senator?
Not at all. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gone public.
Because the question right here is that you have asked Mr. Ojulari. He says this was before my coming into office.
Yes.
The constant person here is the minister, who is the sitting president.
Yes.
Mr. Kelmele Kyari and his team have gone. You are not able to ask them. So why are you asking someone who cannot give you answer? But there is one person that can give you answer.
Who cannot give answer? Tell me.
Mr. Ojulari, because that preceded his office.
Because he is there. First and foremost, let me remind you of the trajectory. We didn't start with Ojulari. We started with the external auditors. Before we got to Ojulari. Now from Ojulari, we've gone to Mele and Co. So if the need arises for us to ask the president, then we will ask the president. The president is there to serve Nigeria.
Are you bold enough to do that?
And he's committed to serving Nigeria and committed to making Nigeria better.
Senator, because there are feelers that this might be some kind of political witch hunt, are you able to tell Nigerians that this is not?
Of course it is not. You see, unless and until we eschew this, if I may, with due respect, nonsensical sentiments. Everything is political witch hunt. Oh, they want to suppress opposition. Oh, it is because the man belongs to my religion. But unless and until we eschew all this, we will not go anywhere. What is wrong is wrong. Poverty is not a respecter of any religion, any political party, any tribe, any geopolitical zone, no region. Let's face it the way it is. If it is to talk about sentiment, the three people we are talking about that have just recently been invited by the Senate committee or will be invited by the Senate committee or summoned by the Senate Public Accounts Committee are all Northerners. I'm a Northerner. And they are all Muslims. In fact, by origin, Ajia and I are from the same place. Because my great-grandfather migrated from Sokoto to settle in Nasarawa over 220 years ago. But I don't give a hoot. What is right, and what is wrong is wrong. Shehu,
Senator,
with due respect.
Senator,
yes, Shehu.
Is these accounts externally audited?
So it is. That's why we are also calling the external auditors.
So if these accounts are externally audited, who failed Nigerians? The management, the auditors, or the regulators?
The auditors, first and foremost, because they prepared these books. And then the management as well, that accepted the books for what they are. And the regulators, who are the regulators of NNPC or the petroleum sector? Tell me.
There's an oversight, which is the ministry.
And nobody can wish away what the National Assembly had done over the period of
Do you see the reason why I'm asking you to ask the president?
Yeah.
Does it make sense to you now?
What? That what?
That you should ask the president.
When the time to ask the president comes. Chairman, there are things I will not disclose here.
Why not?
Not yet, until we get to the bridge.
Senator, is this
But I stand bold to say that President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu really and truly means well for this country. Take it from me. Take it from me.
How can you impress that on Nigerians when you are not able to get answers into some of these funds?
We are not getting answers. The questions are not to him. Haven't been sent to him. But the questions were...
The scandal is under President Bola Tinubu.
No, it's not under President Bola Tinubu. President Bola Tinubu came in.
And part of it was when he was in office, because you are looking at 2023 books. President Bola Tinubu got into 2023. You were looking at 2017 to 2023. So when President got into office as a minister, was he not able to identify that there were problems?
In 2023, otherwise everything stopped in 2022. And the issues got ended before he was sworn into office. Yes, he takes responsibility as a president, but it is not yet right for anybody to put blame on him. And I said earlier, and I'm going to reiterate it, if there is no paradigm shift as to commitment to making Nigeria better under Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, this wouldn't have been happening.
Let me ask you, because we've seen a lot of talk shop about probing the oil sector. We saw the case of when Bukola Saraki raised it in the Senate at the time, leading to a further investigation of the fuel subsidy regime, which is part of the question here. Senator, is the Senate willing to pursue criminal accountability of this matter, even if it implicates powerful figures in your party?
Yeah, of course. Of course. APC, the period under review was spearheaded by which political party?
Your party.
APC. So, if there is no commitment as to doing the right thing, this wouldn't have come.
So the corruption is under your party's watch. The corruption is within your party. The corruption is about your party. In fact, your party is the corruption.
No, not at all. The party is not the corruption, because the party does not run NNPC. The party does not. APC wasn't part of the body of external auditors that put together what we are talking about.
The order is oozing out of your ranks, Senator.
Yeah, the party could appoint anybody to office, but you take a horse to the river, you cannot force it to drink water.
Senator,
so it will be wrong, unacceptable for you to say everything is APC. No.
It's within your ranks, Senator.
Not within our ranks.
Give me a moment. We'll take another break, everyone.
It is within those at the helm of affairs of NNPC. And then the legislators under oversight are doing what they are doing. The president is positioned there for whatever decision the legislature comes up with, he implements it. So, please, excuse the APC.
You are exonerating the president, you are exonerating your party, but all of you are in all of this.
We are all in it together. You are also in it.
No, we are on the outside. We are just
hearing it. You're not on the outside. Your profession makes it imperative for you to create the needed...
When these monies were missing, we are not involved. Now we are just hearing now. Senator, give me a moment. We need to take another break. But when we come back, more scrutiny about how these monies were spent, and perhaps maybe we'll be getting a closure on some of these scandals after this break, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us on the home stretch. Now, Senator Ali Wadada Ahmed has been still speaking with us tonight on the program. Senator, I'm concerned about two very quick matters. The issue relating to subsidy. There's those discrepancies that are being highlighted in your report.
Yeah.
What do we know?
3 trillion unaccounted for.
In subsidy payments?
Yeah. Here is duplication of subsidy charges. NAPINS was charging subsidy on crude oil proceeds at the end of NAPINS. And then at the end of NNPC, NNPC was equally charging subsidy on petroleum products proceeds. Within the period under review, if you put the figures together, charged by NAPIMS and charged by NNPC, over 3.8 trillion. Over 3.8 trillion. NAPIMS, what is NAPIMS? NAPIMS is a subsidiary of NNPC. So whatever financial records NAPIMS keeps, it is for it to eventual integration into the books of the main body, NNPC. How then could NAPIMS be keeping separate financial records from that of NNPC?
Finally, Senator, because of our time, I'm worried because under this period in question is a period where Nigeria went and borrowed money to fix our refineries. Where are those monies?
At a point when the issue, if you remember, I raised an issue over Port Harcourt refinery at the time that Mele Kyari was spearheading the affairs of NNPC, and the Senate President tried to link me to social media, and I stood my grounds, and I said the Senate should go further on what NNPC communicated to the public as far as the real and true position of Port Harcourt refinery, and that has come to pass. So really and truly, there are chain of investigations going on as to the activities of NNPC. But for me, as far as the Public Accounts Committee is concerned, for now, there are issues that have got to do with other the telecommunication sector, multi-choice, the telephone operators, and what have you. We have them, and gradually, one after the other, we shall take them to the public domain. Right. For now, it is about the audited financial statement of NNPC 2017 to 2023, and this is what we have at the moment. Then the rest, by the time the immediate past management appears before the committee under the leadership. Don't forget, Bayo Ojulari will have to be the one to lead the immediate past management. And at the end of the exercise, if the 4 external auditors of NNPC are not being able to convince the committee on this, well, I don't know if I would be right to call it shenanigans, then we may have to call the Financial Reporting Council to do something on their license.
Senator Aliyu Wadada Ahmed is the chairman, Senate Committee on Public Accounts. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you.
And we are hoping that we will find a closure for the sake of our country. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimbale. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you, Sean.